It's been a long time, but the wait was worth it. Zammad 7.0 is packed up to the brim with great features. I'm sure that most of them are going to be a game changer for you. This is also a security release. Let's take a look. AI supports AI features, AI agents or AI. Let's take a quick look at the security advisories first. Previous versions of Zammad did send back the credentials to administrative users in the admin area. This included API tokens, secrets and other credentials. Zammad's UI did show them as password fields. However, the values were still present and retrievable via API. Credentials and secrets are now masked with asterisks correctly, before they are transmitted to the client. Since Redis has been introduced as Zammad dependency, the Redis URL environment variable was logged into Zammad's production log during startup. This variable can contain credential information and thus is sensitive. Zammad no longer logs the content of the environment variable into its log. You may want to check your existing log files and evaluate if you want to remove them due to this behavior. This would also affect log aggregation tools you may be using. Due to the incorrect access control in Zammad's ticket API, ticket customers could move tickets to other groups they shouldn't be able to post ticket data to. In previous Zammad versions that were migrated from other vendors like OTRS or Zendesk, unauthorized users were able to retrieve internal import status metadata. If you have migrated to Zammad from a different vendor with Zammad's migrator and still use the originating tool, ensure that the API access data is no longer valid or that you change them to secure sensitive access to the old tool. When using the ticket API endpoint ticket_related, an authorized agent was able to retrieve asset data of these tickets. This is no longer possible. This API endpoint is being used for ticket merging in the legacy UI. Authenticated agents and customers were able to inject custom statements to custom SQL queries. This affected several API endpoints and was caused due to improper SQL statement sanitization that allowed execution on the database level. Before we talk about what's new, let's dive to the breaking changes real quick. Internet Explorer is now no longer supported by Zammad. This deprecation has been announced for a while and there are successors too. As announced a while back, MySQL and MariaDB are no longer supported by Zammad. If you want to upgrade Zammad, now is the moment where you will want to migrate to PostgreSQL. Since I showed you how in a previous video, there has been improvements in the quality of conversion, so don't be scared. As announced with Zammad 6.5, the Slack integration will no longer be available. If you haven't migrated to Webhook-based Slack notifications yet, please do so before updating. The Webhook functionality offers you much more flexibility to customize your messages towards Slack. Also, you can have several different notifications types, unlike with the old Slack integration. After a very long grace period, the X channel, formerly known as Twitter channel, has been removed. With this update, there are also some software dependencies that change and are potentially a breaking change. The minimum of Node.js has been raised from 18 to 20. PostgreSQL now needs to be at least version 13. Previously, Redis had no minimum version. Now you have to ensure you have at least version 6. I might pronounce this incorrectly, sorry up front. Previously, Zammad had a wrong locale code for Catalan. The incorrect locale code ESCA was corrected to CA. This change has some implications for you, because Zammad cannot migrate everything for you. The user's local preference will be updated by a migration automatically. However, knowledge bases in Catalan will not be changed automatically. This makes sense as there are also no redirects in the knowledge base. To visualize you and your users that an old locale is in use, the old Catalan version will be shown as Catalan deprecated, please use Catala instead. After updating to Zammad 7, you will have to adjust the knowledge base's language manually. You can just switch the old variant to the new one without removing it. Zammad provides this Rails comment to do this easily. Technically, you can also switch the language in the web interface. If your knowledge base is available via public, this is not enough though. You will also have to adjust your web server configuration to redirect knowledge base URLs containing ES-CA to CA. This doesn't just help with bookmarked URLs, but also search engine results and such. I have prepared rewrite rules for Apache and Nginx for you. This is only relevant if you're using the knowledge base with Catalan, of course. Within the root location directive, your Nginx now has to include proxy_http_version 1.1. This is mainly a consistency change, ensuring that all proxy directives behave the same way. Starting with Zammad 7, searches, especially the global search, will use ASCII folding. ASCII folding basically normalizes characters like umlauts to match searches less exact. A search for München will also match München in that case. You can disable this behavior with setting that ES ASCII folding false on the Rails console if you don't want this behavior. This new behavior will not work until you rebuild the search index with rake Zammad search index rebuild. If you're using the package installation, add Zammad run in front of the comment. Last but not least, there has been a change to user memberships and organizations. It is now no longer possible that a user is member of the same organization as secondary and primary user. You have to pick either. A database migration will ensure that this data is consistent. If a user is a member of an organization as primary and secondary member, then the secondary entry will be removed. The user will be primary organization member in those cases. Of course, this also has implications on API scripts. If you're setting organizations via API, please ensure that it does not set the membership for both types. If you do, Zammad will return API errors. Let's take a look at features that have been flagged as minor by the Zammad team. Single and multiple tree selection fields have received a major improvement. You can now disable entries in both field variants. This provides major improvements in multiple tree selection fields, where a parent entry only serves as category. Users can still click on them, but Zammad will automatically go into the child layer and display selections there. For parents without any childs, just as the single tree selection fields, Zammad will not display the entries in question. As you might have guessed, this directly plays into Zammad's core workflows as well, as you can add options that are generally disabled in situations they are needed. Removing options was possible before, but in many scenarios, simply adding is much easier here. A side note on the tree selection fields that I'm having a hard time to visualize for you in this video. A bug caused inactive parent entries in the tree selection fields to be displayed blurry. This affected the new desktop app, which is still in beta phase. Back with Zammad 6.0, the duplicate detection has been introduced. Now a major version later, this function now supports adding organizations to the comparison. This additional attribute to check allows you to detect duplicate tickets on organization level only. This makes sense for example, certain messages you send globally to a customer on organization level. Before you could only check on the independent customer without the organization scope. As a reminder, the duplicate detection will show a yellow warning to users creating a new ticket. This thus only applies to tickets that are created within Zammad's web interface. By default, these warnings are shown to agents only, but if needed, you could also enable this for your customers. Webhooks have received major improvements, enabling you to utilize them even better. On all the Zammad versions, webhooks send post requests only. You can now finally decide what request method you want the webhook to use. Choose between post, put, patch and delete. Additionally, you can now use authentication for these request methods. Choose Bearer token and HTTP basic authentication. This allows you to trigger REST API requests with webhooks. I'm very sure that this will be a huge game changer for many of you. Apart from obvious features, the Zammad team also worked hard on some usability changes. New agents will now receive a better onboarding. The agent clues have been improved in their wording and are also slightly extended. The clues will now hint about the user profile section, ticket creation, overviews and search. The overviews are new in that case. When an agent or administrator clicks on the user avatar, they will now additionally see links to the admin and user documentation. The administrator documentation will only be shown to administrators. The last improvement only has an effect for new Zammad installations. The welcome mail from Nicole Brown, so the first ticket in Zammad, has received improved wording. This hopefully helps new users to adapt faster on their path in the new instance. Now the last improvement is flagged as minor by Zammad. In my opinion, this is a big game changer for bigger instances though. Channels have been improved and now introduce optional concurrent fetching. Until now, channels were fetching data sequentially. Instances with high email volume and rather many mailboxes could suffer from delayed email retrieval. This performance setting is available to all installation types. The variables are very nice toggle breakers. Enable the concurrent fetching with Zammad process delayed communication inbound jobs workers. Anything between 1 and 16 spawns the according number of workers. Unset or set 0 to get back to the sequential fetching. Additionally, you can spawn up to 16 threads by using Zammad process delayed communication inbound jobs worker threads. Keep in mind that these settings require additional database connections and can have a serious impact on your system's stability and performance. Now, after talking about minor features, let's take a quick discourse into general improvements. From now on, Zammad supports Elasticsearch9. The installation documentation also reflects this new version. If you're still using Elasticsearch 7, you should consider migrating to Elasticsearch 8, or even better, version 9. Be aware that Docker Compose-based installations switch from Elasticsearch 8 to 9 with this release. Normally, a rebuild from Elasticsearch 8 indexes to Elasticsearch 9 shouldn't be required. As you likely want to use ASCII folding, you're going to rebuild the index anyway. Zammad 7 finally brings Debian 13 support. This time, you cannot just adjust the URL version number slightly like usual. Debian Trixie has higher security standards for repositories, which is why the repository changes. To update your installations, you will have to download the new keyring and retrieve the new list file. Just from looking at it on the packager side, my guess is that this is going to be relevant for other distributions in the near future as well. But this is just guessing from my end, without any validation. Until now, restoring a Docker Compose-based installation was a hassle and rather a manual process. Now the Zammad team added an easy-to-use way to restore your Compose stack quickly. After starting the stack once initially, stop the stack and copy or mount your Zammad backup to var tmp zammad restore within the Zammad backup volume. As soon as you start the stack and the restore folder is detected, the stack will automatically trigger the restore process. The restoration process will rename the restore folder once it's finished. This restore process supports package, Docker Compose and Software as a Service backups. This makes the Compose stack much more complete and shows the effort the Zammad team puts into making Docker-based installations the norm. Zammad 6.5 already improved quite an improved situation during the initial load of Zammad's web interface. Open ticket taskbars will now load even more efficient. Instead of retrieving data for currently inactive taskbars during the initial call, the retrieval of these information will be delayed to reduce the user's waiting time. While this speeds up the initial login to Zammad, it will also cause some slight delay when switching to another ticket taskbar, because Zammad will then retrieve the missing information. The change affects the legacy web app of Zammad and not the new desktop view. Redis has the downside that it has no high availability functionality in the normal standalone configuration. For this, you can use Redis Sentinel, which is now supported by Zammad. This introduces a new environment variable, Redis Sentinels. Unless this environment variable is set, Zammad will continue to expect a standalone variant via the environment variable Redis URL. You configure Redis Sentinels as a comma-separated list of Redis Sentinels hosts. You can also use the following optional environment variables for set setup. Redis Sentinel name to configure the setup's name. If not set, Zammad will fall back to my master. Redis Sentinel username and Redis Sentinel password will allow you to provide user credentials to authenticate against your high availability setup. This helps you to secure your Sentinel environment. To protect your data from the actual Redis master instance, you can use the environment variables Redis username and Redis password. In older versions, Zammad did not correctly recalculate the number of articles of the target ticket. Another ticket was merged into. This issue was corrected, but affects only newly merged tickets. You can fix all tickets that have been part of this merging scenarios with the following Rails comment if you rely on correct information for example, reportings. This may take a fair amount of time, but should be safe to execute during working hours. Now let's talk about many amazing new features Zammad 7 introduces. The Zammad team worked very hard and tried to make them as round as possible. They even had to postpone the release to ensure it's production ready. As the new desktop app still takes some time to be entirely ready for production, the Zammad team decided to add a very small portion of the new editor's functionalities to the legacy app. To be precise, this allows you to use the most important text formattings quickly and easy. To do so, mark the text you want to adjust. A new bubble menu will appear and allow you to choose the formatting you desire. This reduces the need to use keyboard shortcuts and thus helps less tech-savvy agents and your customers. The community has been asking for official AI support for quite a while. Today, Zammad introduces AI features that help you and your agents to boost their efficiency even more. AI functionality is disabled by default and requires additional configuration depending on your use case. If you are a software as a service customer, you will have to switch to the new version 2 packages. This switch is connected with a price increase of €2 per agent for starter and €1 per agent for professional and plus packages. These switches are entirely optional and provide more storage and optional AI features. At the moment this video was taken, no more information on limitations on the plan level nor on how much more storage you will receive were available. Within the AI provider management, you can choose from several providers. Software as a service customers can benefit from the Zammad AI provider without much hassle. On-premise users can contact Zammad's sales team to receive an API token at any time. As per Zammad's teaser website, an AI call will cost you 3 cents paid in advance. There will be no token-based billing, which should be easier to grasp for most customers. Zammad GmbH gave me a free trial instance with some AI calls to show you what it can do for you. Thanks for that. You can also connect your very own providers with models you have access to. You can choose from OpenAI, Llama, Anthropic, Azure AI, Mistral AI, and custom OpenAI compatible service. Furthermore, you can optionally enable so-called OCR recognition, so that the LLM is able to read text like error messages on screenshots. Make sure to hit save after applying your changes. In the Feedback and Logs tab, you can see all outgoing requests to your AI, not just the send prompt, but also the response. Above the logs, you can download feedback and error logs if needed. Agents can give a positive or negative feedback on the AI responses within AI agents and the AI writing assistant. We will get to those in a moment. Zammad's new AI agents allow you to execute several automated changes to incoming tickets. As of now, you can choose in between 4 AI agents. All of the following agents I'm going to show you can be updated at a later point if needed. As usual, you can also set them to inactive, clone them or delete them. AI agents are not executed automatically. You can automate them by using triggers or schedulers. If you prefer to save credits, especially during a testing phase, you can configure macros to execute AI agents on demand instead. You can do this within bulk operations of overviews or in the ticket zoom as you're used to. The Ticket Categorizer agent helps you to categorize tickets with existing selection fields. These selection fields can be single and multiple selection fields and single and multiple tree selection fields. You will be asked for the selection field to use for the process. You can then optionally restrict the fields to its values. This becomes necessary if the AI agent has problems to assign the right category reliably and you want to use the description field. If you generally want to restrict the options the AI agent chooses from, the description field is entirely optional. You have to use at least 2 options when you are restricting the field options. Just like the Ticket Categorizer agent, you can use the Ticket Group Dispatcher to move new tickets to a more fitting group. Here you can choose to limit groups with optional description fields or just let the AI agent decide over all of them. For most group names, the use of descriptions is most likely the best approach here. This agent reads the content of the ticket and then checks if there is a suitable group available. Within the Ticket Priotizer agent, you can use AI to adjust the ticket's priority. Zammad uses the last ticket article of the ticket to assume the correct priority. This is not just generally useful for your agents to see what tickets to work on first, but can also be combined with service level agreements. You could then use priority-based escalations without any previous human interaction for the priority qualification. By default, this AI agent uses all available priorities in the system. Of course, you can restrict the priorities with optional descriptions here as well. The last AI agent is my personal favorite, to be honest. Everyone working in support knows the problem. The user requesting help usually uses pure wording in ticket titles. If the title is not descriptive enough, agents usually have a hard time to see what the ticket is about. This can lead to a ticket being postponed, while the content might indicate a quite important matter. This is very relevant for all tickets that are created via Zammad's web form, because those have a generic title that says nothing at all. With the ticket title rewriter, Zammad can use the last ticket article to feed the AI agent. The AI can then find a fitting, short descriptive ticket title that Zammad then updates. Of course, the Microwave and I have prepared some example mails for a better understanding. We will use the power of the AI agents so that you can see those in actions. These mails will come in handy in the upcoming ticket summary once more. Also note how the circle changes when the AI agent is working. Let's take a look at AI-driven ticket summaries. These come in handy, especially for very long and complex tickets. This functionality provides customer intent and conversation summaries by default. Depending on your use case, you can additionally enable open questions, upcoming events, and customer sentiment. If you have activated OCR detection, this is also the place where it will be used. By default, Zammad requests the AI to generate a summary as soon as an agent opens the ticket. However, you can also configure Zammad to do so on an agent interaction with a sidebar within the ticket. But don't worry, if the ticket summary is enabled, you can also override the global default you configure here within any group you want this to be different. The ticket summary has its own area within the ticket sidebar and thus can be used optionally by your agents. New or updated summaries are indicated with a red dot. Summarizing the ticket can save a lot of precious time and helps to see what is still pending to be done. Sometimes, especially in sensitive topics, it might also not hurt to know how the customer might feel about the matter. Please be aware that some conversations may be confusing to the AI assistant. If you, for example, skip to-dos that you know is fixed by another step, the AI might not be aware of it. This surely may need some learning on that regard. Zammad comes with an AI-driven writing assistant that ships with 5 default functions. It can expand your draft into a well-written section, fix spelling and grammar for you, rewrite complex sections to make them easier to understand, summarize the written text to roughly half of the current size, and a simple translation into English. Of course, you are not limited to these assistants, and you can add further ones as you desire. You can also extend or adjust the existing ones. This allows you to include company-specific wordings and gives you a very powerful and versatile tool at hand. Of course, you can restrict AI writing assistants to specific groups only. If you're building your own assistants, definitely check out the Zammad documentation. The Zammad team gathered some standard instructions that should be helpful here. Remember the bubble menu from earlier? When enabling the AI writing assistant, Zammad will add a further icon to that menu. From there you can execute the writing assistant functions on the highlighted text on the article editor. Keep in mind that large language models do have their limits in terms of tokens and context limits. The bigger the portions are you throw at the AI, the more likely it's going to have trouble being reliable. Especially in wording matters, these assistants will help you to stay in the same tool, which is a great benefit. The LDAP integration received yet another improvement. Since years, a technical limitation was the use of nested LDAP-Groups. You can now finally include users in a group that's inside a group you're mapping. This nesting is entirely optional and not active by default. This is especially useful if you want to assign certain roles to a rather large set of users. For example, for support groups with several support levels. I personally prefer a basic agent role without any group permissions and then roles with group permissions for different departments. That's up to you, of course. Last but not least, reporting profiles have received an addition. You can now limit reporting profiles to roles instead of just granting a role the reporting permission. Doing so allows you to even provide reportings to your customers. However, keep in mind that poor profile configuration and restriction will potentially leak ticket data, especially in terms of their metadata, to people that might not have access to the tickets. Reporting profiles do not check for the user's individual user permissions, so use this with a lot of care. The role you want to enable with reporting access requires the reporting permission. Especially if you are planning on using it for example, customers, ensure that all reporting profiles in your system are excluded if they contain sensitive searches. Quite a big major release, isn't it? What's your favorite feature? Until next time, take care.